All right, man, peace. So, brothers, I'm here watching First Take, and they asked a pretty interesting question pertaining to the three-man grouping of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Are they better than the three-man grouping that existed in Golden State from 2016 to 2019, consisting of Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson? My answer to that is it's going to be very difficult for us to discern which group was better until we get a larger sample size of the three-man Brooklyn Nets group out there on the basketball floor. As currently constituted, they're easily the greatest combination of individual one-on-one scores in the history of the NBA. I'm not quite sure if there's a close second. Maybe Gail Goodrich, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor. That's one that I thought of off top. I can't really think of another one where you have three players who can individually score, don't need to run a pick, don't need any help getting their shot off or anything like that. To me, once again, they're easily the greatest combination of individual scorers to ever play on the same team at the same time. But does that make them a better three-man grouping than Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, and Klay Thompson, who pretty much all seem to be born to fit into that system seamlessly of constant motion and having the ability to play both with and without the basketball? So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Yet we're going to talk about the Nets here. So according to ESPN's Basketball Power Index, the Nets' title chances shrink to just 9% without a healthy James Harden. Brooklyn's Big Three has a net rating of 22 this postseason, but that cuts into nearly half when Harden leaves the court. So for Nets' Big Three versus his 2017-2018 Warriors. Who you got?
If we're talking about teams, I have to say the 2016-2017 Warriors. That's probably the best team that I've seen in the 30-plus years that I've been watching basketball, other than some of those Bulls teams. And as far as a playoff team, other than maybe the 0-1 Lakers in the playoffs, the 2017 Warriors are probably the most dominant team that I've ever seen. Once again, other than the 2001 Lakers and in the 90s, maybe the 91 Bulls, they were an incredible playoff team as well. They had a great run in the playoffs, and they most likely were the most springy and energetic of any of the Bulls championship teams. But the 2017 Warriors, they fit together like a hand and a glove. And in order for us to compare the KD Warriors with the KD Nets, I'm going to have to get a greater sample size, a larger sample size, and they're going to have to win a couple of championships.
I got the Warriors. I mean, look, this is every coach's dream to watch the way that Golden State Warriors team played basketball, the way that they move without the basketball, the way that they didn't just have to dribble the clock out to get a shot off, the way that they did pick-to-pick actions. Look, Klay Thompson, right, has 60 points in 29 minutes on 11 dribbles. All right, that's unheard of. That means that it is beautiful basketball, player movement, ball movement. Steph Curry pulling up. He can play off the ball along with Kevin Durant. Let's not forget how beautiful it was to watch that Golden State Warriors team play the game of basketball, because now we're watching some guys that like to go isolation and give you all the fancy crossover moves.
To be honest with you, I think the game almost became too easy for KD when he played in Golden State. He wanted to go to Brooklyn to feel challenged again. The game became so easy in Golden State, it really was only a matter of whether or not they could stay healthy for the remainder of the season. That was going to be the only thing that stopped them from winning championships. So, I mean, as of right now, once again, if we're just going to talk about raw ability and raw talent to score one-on-one, it probably would be the Nets. But as a unit, I'd probably take the 2017 Warriors, even if, say, for example, the 2021 or the 2022 Nets had a larger sample size. But they might make me change my opinion. We'll see how things go next year, should they be able to stay healthy and get some of the ancillary parts that they're going to need to win a championship. They're going to need some rebounding help. They'll need some defense in the middle, maybe another shooter, some help off the bench with physicality. I'm not quite sure if they're going to be able to retain Blake Griffin. We'll see how things go. As of right now, they have 3 proverbially max players. So I don't know what they're going to do to flesh the team out.
These guys were playing phenomenal basketball that every middle school, high school, AAU team will want to show their players on how to play the correct way.
The answer is the Nets. And let me break it down like this. First of all, the James Harden Rockets came within a few possessions of beating that Warriors team.
This nigga is always hanging on to that nonsense. I'm trying to figure out how come he forgot so quickly that Andre Iguodala, his favorite player, the guy that he would want to take a shot for the fate of the world over Stephen Curry, how come he forgot that Andre Iguodala went down, I believe, at the end of Game 3 or something like that? Remember that? Andre Iguodala had back problems in that series. He missed like the last 3 or 4 games. He might have came back for Game 7. I'm not quite sure. But he missed the vast majority of that series. Oh, that would have been a 5-game series easily.
With just James Harden on the worst shooting night in the history of basketball. That's a single-digit loss to those Warriors. You know why? Because the Rockets had James Harden playing D'Antoni's system. And that's what these Nets have when Harden's healthy. Now, KD is KD, right? So then, if you want to say Harden and Steph cancel, give or take, whether you like Steph or Harden, they're both perennial MVP candidates. Then it comes down to Kyrie and Klay. Klay's a better two-way player. Klay's a great defender and one of the greatest shooters ever.
Kyrie has become one of the more underrated defenders in the NBA. His defense was above average, especially down the stretch of this year. So he deserves more credit as a defender.
The 50-40-90 guy this year. And generally shoots about 40% from 3. It takes a lot of them. And the bottom line is, the reason Klay doesn't dribble...
That's a great point. Kyrie was a 50-40-90 guy this year, which very few players have been able to accomplish, especially averaging over 25 points per game.
It's great that he doesn't, the ball moves and everything, but that's because ideally you'd want Klay as the opponent putting the ball on the floor and making decisions with it. Not that he can't, just not why he's there. Kyrie got handles and skills, no knock against Klay, that Klay doesn't have offensively.
Yeah, but Klay can get hot in a way that not even Kyrie's ever been able to get hot. Like, Klay is unbelievable running off those picks. And there's something to be said for that. Of course, we give more credit to the great one-on-one player. But if Reggie Miller or Ray Allen or Klay Thompson gets hot, they can score 60 just like that great one-on-one player can do. Except they're probably going to use a lot less energy on the offensive end to get those points that they can use on the defensive side. That's why players like James Harden and Kyrie Irving appear to struggle defensively, because it takes them so much more energy to get their shot on the offensive end because they prefer to go one-on-one.
Comes down to Kyrie or Klay. I'm taking Kyrie. KD cancels with KD, and if you make me choose between Harden and Steph, I'm taking Harden. It's the Nets.
That's a close one, but I wouldn't take Harden over Stephen Curry. I would take Stephen Curry. That would be very close. I definitely can understand the people who would rather have Harden, but I would take Stephen Curry over him. I've seen Stephen Curry in big moments. He's had his ups, he's had his downs. I've seen James Harden in big moments. He's pretty much only had downs.
Taking who?
James.
Did you just say you're taking Harden over? You?
Yeah.
Oh, you're taking James Harden over Steph Curry when I could have sworn just last year you, Max Kellerman, was on him.
Max Kellerman said it's in flux. He's always getting called out for his bullshit-ass basketball takes. Remember when he said Giannis was the best player in the league a couple years ago, and Stephen A. Smith won't never let him forget it. He said Kawhi was the best player. Stephen A. won't ever let him forget it. Let the record show, I have no problem with Max Kellerman saying that, because at least I give him credit for being open-minded enough to look for other players who were playing better than LeBron at various points in the season. And, in the process of being a prognosticator, you are going to say certain things and end up being wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just funny when they call him out.
Me and Big Marcus Spears and Swagoo, and we brought up this topic. Who would you take, Steph Curry or James Harden? And me and Swagoo was on here begging. We were pleading. We were arguing. We were debating with you that we were taking James Harden. And now you come back today and you say, I'm taking James Harden.
Know why, Kendrick Perkins? Know why? Because this season on this Nets team, I saw Harden take his game to yet another level. When he didn't have to be the guy scoring 50 points a night. No, I saw Steph play like that in the past, including 0 points in 3:30 of the last 3:30 of overtime with the season on the line. I've seen Steph do that before, too.
This dude will never let Steph forget some of his issues. But no matter how many playoff struggles Steph may have had, they pale in comparison to James Harden. That's why I say that if we're going to compare James Harden and Stephen Curry, we have to really dig deep into the numbers. Stephen Curry has been one of the most productive players to ever participate in the NBA Finals, averaging damn near 27 points a game, something that Kobe Bryant didn't do. Shannon Sharp was the one who relayed a lot of these statistics when he was trying to defend Stephen Curry's legacy to Skip Bayless. I've always stated that this notion that Stephen Curry is not a clutch player, it really has its roots in his poor performance in the 2016 finals. Other than that, he's been pretty exemplary in the finals. He had a poor Game 3 in the 2018 finals. I'll never forget. He left the court crying because he knew that pretty much was his best chance at getting a finals MVP, which was basically all he was missing in his career ledger or on his career shelf per se. But he's been, overall great in big moments and great in the finals. He's had his shortcomings. I've said that in the past. He's had certain times where he came up kind of short, kind of small per se. But no player of his stature has ever been held to that standard. He's held to a Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan standard of productivity because that's the standard that he has set for himself. At the end of the day, you cannot compare the shortcomings and the issues that he's had in clutch moments to James Harden. James Harden has had historically great poor moments in the playoffs, especially in pivotal games. I think it was Game 6 against the Spurs where he was horrific. Maybe it was Game 5 against the Warriors, I want to say in 2015, where he had something like 12 turnovers. I mean, he's been historically bad. And then, Max Kellerman loves talking about 2018 when the Rockets took the Warriors to 7, but he never talks about 2019 when KD missed the last, 2 games of the series. They had Golden State in Houston for Game 6, and they lose the game with no KD there. Stephen Curry scores 0 points in the first half and then gets 33 points in the second half to end their season. And that's when that relationship fracture occurred between James Harden and CP3 in the locker room after the game when they realized they were no longer compatible. So let's evaluate both of these players' careers in proper context. Once again, I can understand the people who'd rather have Hardhead. Me personally, I'll take Stephen Curry.
Saw from James Harden is when he could just conduct the offense as a real point guard and not worry about scoring every point in the world. They were unbeatable. Unbeatable.
Max, what's crazy is that every time you switch up, you move the goalpost to fit your narrative. Because for a long time you were sitting up here arguing with me, whether it was arguing about Steph and James Harden or James Harden and Luka. You were saying that you was taking Luka over Harden.
That's a great comp, the James Harden-Luka comp. I've stated in the past that is the real comparison because they basically have the same game. The difference is that James is a little bit faster and quicker than Luka, but Luka is bigger, stronger, has more heart, never quits, and is better in the clutch than James Harden. But Harden is quicker and stronger, probably a better shooter, and he draws fouls a little bit better than Luka. But the comp is definitely there between those two players.
You kept saying that Harden, when it mattered the most, he came up short.
Guilty.
And I had to pull up film.
Guilty. No, guilty.
So
Harden has choked when it matters most.
I just don't get it.
So has Steph.
Okay, so what? So Max.
It's not possible to say that Steph has choked when it's mattered the most, when the dude has 2 regular season MVPs and 3 championships, and he won his first championship with no KD. It's just not possible to make that case. And even in the final series where he came up small, his smallest, he averaged 22 points a game. And that's with multiple games where he just seemed to disappear. Game 3, he was terrible in 2016. Game 7, he was terrible. But somehow he still averaged 22 points a game for that series, despite being double and triple teamed by Ty Lue. So we have to give Steph a little bit more credit than we give him.
Giving us an opportunity to see him on a big stage yet.
That's fair.
Because he haven't even made it there.
That's fair. By the way, just like when I took Kawhi and took Giannis and I was wrong both times, part of this is predictive.
I don't necessarily think that you were wrong about Kawhi. I still think that Kawhi, pound for pound, inch for inch, is right there with KD as probably the best player in the NBA right now. I think that LeBron had his last gasp last season in 2020. I think that you have to give him his credit for being considered the best player in the NBA after he won that championship, that pseudo-championship in the bubble. But at the end of the day, he was able to win it. I don't count it on the same scale or at the same level of real championships where you actually have to go out there on the road and deal with the opposing team's crowd and the higher energy of the opposing team, the referees, etc. I cannot grade it on that same standard, but he did win that little AAU Black Lesbians Matter Bubble Tournament Championship in 2020. In the same year that there was no KD, that Kawhi and his team flamed out. So you have to give it to LeBron. Even though I think that skill for skill, Kawhi is a better player than LeBron James is. That's just how I see it.
Trend and what I expect from Harden, he could prove me wrong still. That's right. Part of it is I'm trying, it's calculus. You're trying to trace the trajectory and the rate of it and what's changing before our very eyes. That's what I see from Harden. But Steph went last season on the line, win or go home, 0 points in the last 3:30 of overtime. I've seen that before from him too.
I mean, did you watch Steph Curry this season?
Yeah, he was incredible this year. This was the best season I've ever seen him have this year. Better than 2016. Because in 2016, he had other shooters out there that could help him spread the floor. Also, the rest of the NBA was about 2 years behind what they were doing. So it wasn't even really like they understood how to guard what they were doing back in 2016, especially with two shooters like that. In the 2020-2021 season, basically everyone in the league either is playing in that Golden State style or thinks that they know how to defend it. So for him to go out there and average 32 points a game, get the scoring title, and shoot 48% from the field, wow. I mean, he was threatening that 50-40-90 thing, and he would have had the greatest individual season of any player to ever go 50-40-90, surpassing Larry Bird, at least as far as scoring average.
Did you happen to turn on your television and watch the Golden State Warriors and watch the show, the clinic that Steph Curry put on, the way he was tearing the league up? The man went for 60.
Yeah.
Who was the best player in the league when they were healthy this year? Who was the best player in the league when they were healthy? Who? Just I'm curious.
It was Jokic.
Was better than Harden at Harden's best this year?
It was Jokic.
Kendrick keeps saying the same thing. It was Jokic. He gonna say that because Jokic got the MVP award. Harden, I would say, was probably the most potent, but I think that the reason why Kendrick says Jokic is because Harden was playing with Kyrie and KD. Now, very rarely did we get the chance to see them all out there together. But, I would probably say 80%, maybe even 90% of the games that Harden played was with either KD or Kyrie. Stephen Curry was out there by himself. I mean, not only did he didn't have another shooter on the level of a Klay Thompson with him, he had no shooting with him. Those guys on Golden State can't shoot, and he was still out there averaging 32 a game. I mean, honestly, it was one of the most impressive offensive seasons that I've seen a player have in the last 30 years when you look at what he was able to do.
Right.
Was better than Harden's best game for game.
Said Jokic. All right, he answered you. Let's keep going.
Even Molly saw what it was. She said, he answered you. That big black man said Jokic. You better listen. But anyway, that's basically it on that. That's a great fantasy matchup. The 2017 Warriors against a fully healthy, fully loaded 2021 Brooklyn Nets team that I think would have won the championship. I probably would have favored the 2017 Warriors because they also would have had Sean Livingston and Iguodala and Draymond Green. I think that they would have found a way to nullify a lot of that one-on-one basketball. Of course, you have the two KDs nullifying each other. You have 2017 Steph against 2021 Kyrie. That's pretty much a nullification. So now we're talking about James Hardhead versus Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, and Sean Livingston because they would have sent a lot of guys at James Hardhead. No doubt about it. So that would have been a very interesting series. But I'd probably pick the 2017 Warriors in 6 or 7. So peace.